Story Legacy at Ramiro.me, a show for people who want to tell their story, make an impact, and leave a legacy. Personal stories from people. Remix! It's the music edition! Hey, hey! I am Ramiro, creator of Story Legacy, your story guide, and today on the show, we have Lisa Pezik! Hey, hey, Lisa,
Wow.
welcome on the show.
Hey, what an incredible welcome. Thank you for making me feel so at home on your show. It's so nice to be here.
Yeah, great. Thank you for coming on here. Let me just check. I heard. Oh no, we're good on the audio. So Lisa, the music edition, the show is all about stories and the life lessons learned from those experiences, the golden nuggets, and because I believe those go so hand in hand, like stories we're telling and the lessons we've learned, the wisdom. But the music edition, we focus on musicians and the role music played in their life. Now, girl, I heard you sing and you can sing. And all right, so for those of you who don't know, Lisa is in the process of making a one person play. Now, usually, okay, and I've seen, I've recently seen Lisa do a table reading. That's kind of like a dry run, or how would you call that? Is that a dry run?
Yeah, it's you want to get feedback on the content, on your story, on your plot, on your characters, that it makes sense, like what's working, what isn't working, what's clear, what's not clear, before the next part is to block it and get it up on its feet and ready to be brought to the stage.
Nice. So I was lucky and fortunate enough to attend her table reading live, and that is already so good, so great. I was just blown away. Now, Lisa, tell me, I see that you also shared that doing this play, because I know I seen you put in the work. Well, I see the quality and level where you're at. I know, and I see the the dedication, the commitment, and the work you put in. I see you
Mm.
for that. And then I also saw you mentioned that this has been one of the scariest things you've ever done, right? So tell me more about that. Tell me more about how was it scary? Why was it scary? And why did you decide to do it anyway? What were the challenges
Yeah.
that came with that? What made it so scary?
Yeah, so even just the art of solo theater in itself, it's solo, meaning it's just you on stage. So there's no one to bail you out if you forget a line, if you forget where you're supposed to be. Uh, you got to pull off a lot of things as a one woman or one man, solo performer. Now, when I say solo, it means solo with you on stage. You're certainly not solo in how you create it and the coaching that you get. Community is so important. But I think the thing that's scary is most solo artists, or many, I should say, write a lot about their own personal story. So many of the stories you see are very, autobiographical in nature. It's about you, whether you are not changing the name and you are literally playing yourself as a character, or you do change the name and you can play parts of your life that you want to share and maybe parts of other people's stories or other wisdoms or things you've gotten along the way. So for me, I mine's about 95% bang on, fully true, fully my life. And the things that I talk about are not things that you would share, like, at the dinner table or like having a coffee with your best friend. Like these kinds of intimate moments that really change the trajectory of our whole life. Those times when it wasn't a highlight. It's so easy to share our wins and our successes and, the highlight reel on social. Even social media, we're telling a story of what we want people to believe that's true about us. When you write a show, you have to look at every character from what's called non-judgment, meaning whatever they did, whatever they said, they were completely justified. In their mind, they were right. Now, that doesn't mean that what they did was right. That doesn't mean that you should forgive them. And, I mean, you should forgive them, but that doesn't mean that it makes it okay. But you can't play characters maybe as mean as they were, or you can't write the scene maybe exactly as it happened to you. You have to be thinking about the audience member in mind. And it doesn't really become your story anymore. It becomes, how do I make the audience go inward and reflect in their own life? How do I promote transformation with my story? Because there's a difference between being a victim and being a champion, and making people think. So the hardest thing for me was, many of these things that I wrote about and talked about happened decades ago when I was a kid, in my teens, in my 20s. And I'm so much farther on the other side of that now, on the other side of that pain, on the other side of that grief, on the other side of that trauma, that going back there, I had to go back into working with healers and therapists, because like the rust started kind of coming back up for me. And I was like, "Ooh, I thought I healed this. And I'm feeling all sorts of emotions around this again." So it actually even brought a deeper healing for me and a deeper level of forgiveness, because I had to get into the head of that villain. I had to get into the head of that person who was saying those, awful things or doing those awful things. And I found a lot of compassion in that. And no, I was no longer angry at that person. I was no longer triggered by that person. All I found was compassion and forgiveness from doing that. And, and it just, when you don't give it away so easy that someone maybe is doing something not great, it allows the audience to go in their own mind and think about their own times they were bullied, they had a low moment, somebody said something crappy to them, their heart was broken, things didn't go the way they planned. When you don't make it predictable, you have to, write it in a certain way. So that non-judgment and that deeper level of healing made it hard. You're sharing the most intimate pieces of yourself to complete strangers, and everybody has an opinion. That's art, right? You and I, Ramiro, can go see a movie and I might go, "Oh my God, that was the best movie I've ever seen in my life." And you might go, "Oh my God, that was the worst movie I've ever seen in my life," right? So when it's something that isn't an intimate piece of you that happened, right? Like somebody says they don't like your cooking, you're like, "Okay, I can get over that," right? They don't like your t-shirt, I can get over that. It gets a little scary when you're sharing the most intimate, vulnerable pieces of yourself and you're not sure how the audience is going to take that, right? So for me, it was about making sure that I was okay. I was really comfortable. I was indeed on the other side of all of that, fully resolved, fully healed, to be able to stand there and present that, knowing that I feel good about what I'm presenting. I'm okay. I'm okay whether you love it or you hate it. I'm okay because I'm okay, right? And secondly, just, knowing that bravery is always rewarded. We love the most intimate that's what makes us human, the most intimate details about people. So I think it's when you can let your guard down and really let people in and create something that is really gonna help people in the world. It no longer becomes about your fear and your worry and your emotions. It becomes about taking care of the audience and making sure that they're good and that you're delivering the goods to them. So it was a whole just like mind shift for me, and just healing on a deeper level. And then lastly, just the technique of solo theater, like learning how to be the characters and do the voices. And I mean, I haven't been trained in any of that. So this was a complete singing. I added music, which was something I always wanted to do. I'm just adding all these new skills that I never considered myself an actress, a playwright, a songwriter, a musician, really stepping in and owning those things and going, yeah, I am that now. And owning that, learning new skills in adulthood, which is so hard to do because we want to be great at it and perfect right away. So learning those new skills was really cool too.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you for that insight and so many things I can go into. My first question is so you can sing. You can sing. So, and you did not identify as a musician. So, do you have a background in singing before focusing on solo theater?
Not at all. Not at all. So I mean, like I could go to the karaoke bar and bust out a tune, with my girlfriends and I've always loved to sing, but the table reading that you were at was actually my first time ever, other than like, having a couple drinks and like, getting up with my girlfriends and singing karaoke. That was the first time I've ever actually performed for someone. So no, I've never been vocal trained. I did not sing as a kid. I always wanted to. That was I grew up in really small town Pennsylvania, and there was one road that took us like everywhere, one country road that took us everywhere. And on that road was a little playhouse. It's called the Jim Thorpe Playhouse, where there was theater and music and singing. And I used to always ask my parents if I could be a part of that. And they always said no. And they would never let me. So it was a dream I always wanted to do, but never ever pursued it. And then just this past year, I hired a vocal coach and a songwriting coach, and I just started learning. Even what you saw on the table read, I'm still very early in my quote unquote like musical career or being coached on technique of how to be a singer. I'm lucky because I can kind of naturally carry a tune. And with being a speaker, I've had some, voice coaching as a speaker. But no, I've never ever been trained. Well, now I'm training, but prior, I've never been trained. I decided to get training at 39 years of age. So before that, those 39 years prior or 38 years prior, never.
Wow, that is so inspiring. And I have a similar thing. I always had that desire to sing, and I was so tone deaf that I didn't realize I was not singing the melody. So, and I also, it doesn't matter what age you start and you commit and you just improve every day, right? So, all right, so thank you for that. I love that, and I definitely resonate with that. I'm getting chills. Uh, you have so many characters in your play.
I
I
do.
want to ask you right now, would you please for us do a short snippet of the character Shame? That one is yeah. If you're willing, just show us a little about that character called Shame.
Okay, so you want me to say anything or just go right into the character?
Yeah, go right into the character.
Okay. Well, who does Lisa think she is coming on this podcast, acting like she's a musician? She is horrible. And when she goes on stage, everyone will tell her how horrible her singing is, how tone deaf she is, how she should pack it in, go away, never come out again to let anyone see anything that she creates. Who does she think she is?
Whoa, that was made up on the spot, and I love how you embody that character. That you can naturally say something as that character. Because when I asked you, I thought maybe you were going to do a little piece of what they do in the play, but you just, oh, I love that. Thank you. So,
Mm,
and I said this during the table reading that it really reminds me of this Disney villain, and you do it so well. So, which was the tying back into
yeah,
mentioning about how to not being the victim and creating these characters
yeah.
and putting yourself out there.
Mm.
What was the most challenging character that you had to create and perform?
Ah, my husband was the hardest character to play
Okay.
because I'm so close to him. It's so
Mm.
hard and you don't have to play the characters necessarily the way they show up for you in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You play what they embody for you.
Mm.
So, someone could have like a really high nasally voice regularly, but if they embody grounding and weight and like Superman strength, you're going to play them as a booming, lower male character. You're not going to play them maybe as the nasally voice that they have. So you play what they embody. But you want to, for me, like I really wanted to get it right. I think when we have characters that we kind of call them like toss away characters, like you can have more fun with them. You can play with them. You don't necessarily have to get them right or get them perfect because maybe they don't carry that much weight in your life. My husband is the most important person. Obviously, my husband and my son are the most important people in my life. So I didn't want to like portray him in a way that made him go like, wow, you made me sound dumb, or like you made me really nerdy, or like that's not the way I would have said that to you. Not that he would say that, but it's like the people that mean so much to us, we don't want to do them wrong. We want to show the world how much they mean to us, and that you can get in your own head that way. And that's the one character that all the feedback I got was his voice needs to change. We didn't resonate with the voice you picked for him, which I knew. And then that was great validation just to get that. But yeah, the people that are the closest to us are the hardest ones to play because they mean so much to us.
Got it. Oh wow. Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. It totally makes sense. I totally see what you're saying. All right, cool. Now, going back to some things of that scary and that healing, that's so important. You mentioned that the things you were talking about, you had already healed from it, but now putting it into display, you had a deeper healing because of it, right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
we can't, well, you can, well, but I believe we should not tell the stories that are not resolved within us yet,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
that's what one of the things that made it super scary and uncomfortable, and being, yeah, just showing yourself fully. All right, cool. Now I'm so excited. So okay, that was that. And which is your favorite character to play?
Oh, that's such a good question. Who's my favorite? Jaden's pretty fun. My gay step instructor, Jaden. Like he's really just kind of, fun to play. Because I do. So Lisa on the other side, me, how I'm living my life now, is very playful, very fun, very animated, very energetic. Luna, who's my character in the play, is like a hot freaking mess. So it's so fun. It's really fun to play Jaden. From just that, Jaden doesn't have a care in life. He knows who he is. He is confident. He is a protector. He is looking out for me. He's calling out the BS that comes out of my mouth. He's really fun. And I really like Patty, the healer and the therapist that I end up doing a lot of work with, and kind of showing how I got on the other side. I feel like Patty is really a gift to the audience because she throws out a lot of questions and comments that allow you, we call it edutainment. So that makes you think about your own life and the choices you're making and the things you're allowing and not allowing. And so I like Jaden for the play and fun character, and I like Patty for the wisdom that she imparts on the audience and how she calms me down. Like I'm always just like a hot mess when I go in to see her. And it's like calming a scared child, really, is what she does. And that's what we have to do in our life when things trigger us or where things come up. When we're triggered, we're acting like that scared 8-year-old girl or that scared 12-year-old, and we have to calm ourselves with our words. And shame is like that horrible critic in our head. And Patty just imparts great wisdom of how to kick that critic Her and Warrioress too. I forgot about her. Warrioress is so fun. I can't pick a favorite one. Warrioress,
Well,
East Coast,
all,
you
all,
know.
all, all for different reasons. Now, will you do some warrior rest for us?
Oh, okay. Yo, Ramiro. I mean, I love that you're doing this thing for people. Like, so many people are learning how important their story is. Like, we think we're so boring, right? We're so smart and beautiful and amazing that the world's got to say it, right? Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. Now, is Warrior S and Warrior S, you sound real gangster. Is that
Warrior.
a New York accent or a Boston accent?
Oh, it's kind of like a blend of both. She's been both places. Warrioress is like the school of hard knocks, right? Warrioress is your gut, your intuition. Like Warrioress knows you and you know yourself, you know your heart, you know where you need to go. Warrioress has been in a dark alley where she shouldn't be, and Warrioress has been, down and out and got herself picked up off the ground. So Warrioress is both. She's been around the block. She's got street smarts.
All right, cool. Now, Warrior S, I love that. Let's see now. I'm waiting for the background noise to stop, but can you hear me correct?
I can. I can
Okay.
hear you construction, but it's all good.
Forget the noise. The question I have for you right now is,
Yeah.
from this play, doing this, and at the stage where you're at, and I know you've come such a long way, and at the same time, it's only the beginning. Because how long have you been working on this?
Yeah, I didn't have a single thing written. April is when I wrote my shame. I created my first character. So April, May, June, July, August, September, October. 7 months I've been working on this.
Whoa, that's not a short time, but that's super fast that you got here in only 7 months. Wow,
True.
I'm blown away. I'm blown away. So, and now I know you still have ways to go, and this is only the beginning. So far, what is the biggest lesson you've learned from creating this?
I think the biggest lesson I've learned is that our stories are so damn powerful. And we think people care maybe about, like, when I think about, imposter syndrome, or like the reasons why people don't do the things that they really want to do in their life. They think they're too old. It's all the too, right? That's where my whole, too big for her britches came from. They think they're too old, they're too dumb, it's too late, they're not skilled enough, they're not this, they're not that. Number one, anything is learnable. I had no idea. I literally got into solo theater because I thought it would be the easiest thing for me to execute, in terms of, I was like thinking of theater and I'm like, how am I going to have a cast, and where am I going to find characters, and how am I going to stage this? And like, I was thinking more logistical when I chose solo theater. But now realize it ends up like the joke's on me, right? Because solo theater is
Yeah.
the hardest form of theater to pull off, because it is just you. But I think we think like no one's gonna care, no one's gonna want to know. Like I don't have a story is a very common. My husband says that all the time. He's like, babe, nothing traumatic happened to me. I'm like, luckily you're blessed, right? But I'm like, sometimes we think these things that are so fascinating to people are these like massive, like, I survived a car accident, or I survived cancer, or it could be like, I've seen people write stories about their first heartbreak. I've seen people write stories about moving to a different country. I've seen people write stories about being Mormon and moving away from their religion. And like sometimes we think it's these massive, earth-shattering things that move people. And our pain is so universal. Every single person, I mean, you teach this, I'm sure too. Every single person has a story. Every single person has a message to share. They have a purpose and a reason why they were put on this planet. And when you lean into that, that's where the real magic happens. So I think people think they're not fascinating enough. They haven't overcome anything big. We've all overcome something big in our life, many, many things in our life that people can relate to. So I think that's been the biggest kind of thing for me is owning those pieces of me that I maybe didn't think people would care about or that I didn't think would be important. And how many people come forward after you have the vulnerability to share? How many people come forward and say, I found myself in your story. I had a similar story. I felt like you felt, thank you for speaking the truth to that. So it's really healing for everyone when we lean into our power and our purpose and our story, even if we think it's not significant. It is.
Beautiful. I totally agree. And definitely, I believe one of the biggest reasons why people don't tell their story is that belief, what you said, that I didn't go through anything traumatic. And they don't even, because their experience to them is normal. They don't realize how
Yes.
big of an impact it had on them. So they don't label it as traumatic. That's one. Or they compare themselves to people who lost an arm and survived, or who were born without
Right.
limbs, right? To those
Right.
extremes. And like you mentioned, a simple heartbreak can be is such an important experience to share. I believe that anyone who's minimum 5 years old has a
Yeah.
story to tell, and even at a younger age, because everyone who's past the age of 1 has actually survived their first year and they didn't die. But of course, their storytelling vocal skills aren't that great, well developed yet, so
Yeah.
they don't have the skill set to sell it yet. But I so completely agree with you on that, and we then take those experiences. Let's not just call them traumas, because people think it's always about the traumas. It's just those experiences. It can be challenging. It can be more on a positive note, achieving certain goals. So, for example, the
Yeah.
way it's just your husband finding you and that
Mm.
relationship and how he approached that. It's not a trauma. That's a blessing. But that is a story worth telling, worth sharing. I
Yes.
believe, right?
Yes.
So he doesn't have
Yes.
anything traumatic happening to, but he has blessings, so he could share
Amen.
those, right? So
Amen.
I'm curious, why did you decide to do theater? And you
Mm.
said solo. I love that you said I'm gonna do solo because it looks easier, and then you find out, oh shit, this is harder. But
Joke was on
so
me for sure.
yeah. So why did you even decide? What inspired you to do
Mm.
this, to embrace this? Because I know you said you've had that wish to be a
Yeah.
musician and to sing, and now to finally embrace it. What triggered
Yeah.
that? What inspired that?
Yeah. COVID, honestly. I know it's cliche to say that, but I had this time of reflection where I realized, so our business got crazy busy in COVID, like just blew up, right? Because we help people get in the online space, like rebrand, get their websites, funnels, courses, memberships. Like if you didn't have an offer online, your business probably suffered, especially in the very early stages of COVID. So I realized how much I was birthing business babies for people. And I was like bringing dreams to life. And of course, I love nothing more than seeing those businesses succeed and knowing that I was behind the scenes, and then seeing that ripple effect. And I really started thinking about, man, like I'm doing this for everyone else. What's my legacy? What's my contribution? Like I know that I'm contributing with their businesses and them, but I can't control after it launches and goes. I can't control whether that business dies, closes, stays with the ripple effect. What's my story? What's my contribution? And even as a speaker, I would share 2, 3 minute, snippets and stories, and then I'd get right into the teaching. Thought, what's my truth? What's my story? What's my message that I want to put into the world that I know needs to be told in a time right here and right now? And I thought, what is the biggest way that I can express myself that speaks to me, that's on my heart, a dream that I've always wanted my whole life? And I'm a part of Bo Eason's mastermind, and he presented us with this challenge called the Best Accelerated. And it was taking a 10-year plan and distilling it down into a year. And it's like, what's this big, scary, hairy, audacious, thing that scares you so much when you put it on paper? Let's see if we can make it happen in a year. And it's like, don't think, just draw, just go. Like write, draw, do whatever, blank piece of paper. And that's what came out for me was the show. And then as soon as I put it on paper, I was like, oh, why did I do that? Like, why did I pick something easier? Or like, how the F am I going to do that? Like, how am I going to do this? Like came up. But I'm a woman of integrity, and I'm a woman of, if I put it out or I say I'm going to do it, I do it. Like that's my DNA. That's how I'm made. So I'm like, well, crap, there is no turning back now. And I think that's when you don't overthink it, right? When you allow your heart, you allow your unconscious mind, you get out of your logical brain, right? Because my logical brain went, you're not an actress. You're not a singer. You're not a musician. You're not an artist. You're not in theater. People know you for your business strategy, brain. They don't know you as a creative. That's what your intellectual brain says. Or maybe I could do that, but now is not the right time. Or maybe you do have the belief, but your intellectual brain will, talk you out of it. Your heart and your intuition goes, that's what I want. And that's what came out for me. And then I went, all right, well, what if? What if I go for it? What's going to happen? And I just kept asking questions of who I should work with, who I should talk to, what the right next step should be. And when you put that out on paper and you declare what you want, the universe, the world comes to help you. I truly believe in that. And that's how I was able to get connected to all the coaches and all the people and all the team that I have supporting me. It's not as I said, it's not a solo thing. I've got theater coaches. I've got a songwriting coach. I've got a piano teacher. I've got a voice teacher. There's just a ton of, obviously my husband and my son have to be on board. So it's just, there's so many people. It takes a village when you're bringing into existence these big dreams, and it takes a team, so I think it was just listening to my gut about what I truly wanted to do in this world and stepping into that.
Beautiful. Now, I was going to ask you the question because you mentioned even though it's solo theater, it's not a solo thing. So I was going to ask, like, who's on your team? And you mentioned that. Thank you for sharing. Now, to paraphrase, I asked you why, and you said basically COVID. So it reminds me of that expression: "The cobbler's kids has no shoes." So you're working and supporting other people on their dream, and then you're like, "But what's mine?" And then you finally started working on your dream. One thing I saw when you were talking about the logical brain and intuition, the logical brain started to sound a little bit like shame.
Probably, right? That's exactly like shame keeps you small. Shame is who do you think you are, right? And your heart and your gut goes it's like that I think it's Marianne Williamson that has that quote, right? Where it's like, we're not afraid of, I don't want to butcher it, but it's, the quote I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You're afraid of your greatness. Like, who are you not to play big? Who are you not to fully express yourself? You're a child of God. You're made perfect. Like, I don't want to butcher that quote, but it's like, shame goes, who do you think you are? And warrioress, who I embody, right? And your heart and your gut goes, of course you can do that. Why wouldn't you do that? Of course you're capable, right?
Yeah, that is, and I agree, because the academic paradigm we've been in for the past 50 years is really about the logical brain. It has to make sense logically. And even though I also am part of that world, still for the past decade I've really been specialized in exploring the spirit side, the intuition that is far more goes is more in flow, is more all-knowing than our logical self, right? And it's so connected to who we are at the core. So I just get excited when you turn off, put away that logical brain, and follow that flow of your intuition and your gut. So I see you for that, and I appreciate you for that. So beautiful, beautiful. Wow. Now I'm curious of that play, of in that message, in that story. What is the core message? What are the core messages of that story?
I think the universe is like speaking to us through the hammer. What was it? Right? Um, you know, we to guide our writing, because again, when you're telling something about your personal life, I mean, there's so many story. I could have wrote everything I talked about in that play, like certain parts of it could have been whole hour, 90-minute plays, right? Like I talk about my son's birth, that could have been a whole play. I talk about, the eating disorder and the pressure to be perfect and the play out with my mom, that could be a whole story. But you have a dramatic or a guiding question, meaning every character you write, every scene you write has to either drive home or try to take away from that question that you're asking. And my dramatic question for the play was, how do you love all of yourself? How do you love the good parts, the messy parts, the ugly parts, the beautiful parts? How do you find unconditional love? As that was something that I didn't experience growing up. And and it starts with you. So, not, I wish he would love me. I wish she would accept me. I wish they would see how good I am. I wish they would be proud of me. How do you love yourself first? Every single day, because so many things in our life are fluid. Our weight is fluid, our success is fluid, our income is fluid. There are times when we have, $1 million in the bank account, and there are times when we have pennies in the bank account. There are times when we are at our whatever quote unquote goal weight or feeling the most healthy and well that we can ever be. There are times when our bodies change for women, like with pregnancy or as we get older, and none of that matters. The sizes and the numbers, and if we're basing our worth on a size or a number or a dollar amount or a number of followers or any of those metrics, we're basing our worth on metrics. We're missing the point. We're missing the goodness of life. So mine was, how do you find unconditional love for yourself in every stage, every day, in every scenario, and learn how to be kind to yourself? Shame was my worst villain. How do we kick out that villain and really love yourself? And that was, my guiding question. And it was a bit about demystifying therapy. Like it's amazing to me how we can be told a something as we're kids or as we're young, and we carry that. We never question, and we carry that through our whole life, right? Like someone says, you're horrible. You're in third grade and you miss a basketball shot, and someone says, you're horrible at sports. You should never play. And we carry that through you're a terrible drawer. You can't sing worth crap. You're not smart enough, right? For me, it was, if you go to therapy, people are going to judge you and think you're crazy, and you're never going to get a job. You're going to be held back. That was someone in my family's beliefs that was told to me as a kid, and I ran with that. So I never went to therapy until I was in my 30s. And I think, man, if I would have questioned that and not believed that and went to therapy in my 20s, I don't know where my life, how it would have changed, right? I'm assuming for the better. So, demystifying that when things aren't okay, no matter how traumatic or small they are, if there's something inside of you that you can't get over or that you can't resolve, you need to go get help. That's why we have healers, therapists, social workers, NLP practitioners. Like, there's not a shortage of people, coaches, consultants. There's not a shortage of people to help you. And that's why it's demystifying that I got to figure this out on my own. They're going to judge me. I can't ask for help. So it's raising your self-worth, loving yourself, and that you're worthy of getting help whenever you need it. You're not supposed to have it all figured out. We wouldn't be human. Like, we need help. We can't do it alone.
I love that. And when you said you're not supposed to have it all figured out, I would add at any age, right? Because people go, yeah, exactly. Now, that's something that I wanted to ask you. So thank you for bringing that up on that stigma and that taboo about therapy and getting help, right? And
Yeah.
in your play, The Warrioress, he kept bringing up the topic of therapy, right? So, why? Okay, that's why you resisted it, right? Now,
Yeah.
why was that so important to bring up? Because it was the warrior, yes, but did you have that that intuition that it could be good for you, that it might be good for you?
Yeah. I remember I played it out in my play when I got my heart broken for the first time when I was 15, 16. And I remember saying to my mom, there's a cat. I'm angry. I'm upset. I can't stop crying. Like, my heart's broken, more or less. And there's a counselor at school, should I go talk to her? And that's where, she said, well, they're going to think you're a crazy person. Like, feelings don't get you places. Like, we're not, we don't talk about our feeling. And I grew up in a very emotionally phobic household. Like, we didn't know how to deal with emotions. Things were shoved under the carpet, or things were just slap on a smiley face and pretend everything's okay. Everything had to look perfect on the outside. So that was the messaging. You won't get a job. You won't get to go to college. You won't, they'll label you as something's wrong with you. And that was my worst fear, because I grew up as such a people pleaser, and I wanted everything to be right with me. I wanted to make everybody happy. I wanted to feel good enough. So that was like, my mom basically told me my greatest fear, they're going to think something's wrong with you. I grew up thinking there was something inherently wrong with me. So I had that thought, which was squashed. And then again, when I was in my 20s and I was dealing with the stress of being a nurse and working in the ICU, and then, not having family support, and then, of course, not loving myself. So making horrible choices in men, as you heard in the play. And, it all kind of, when you don't love yourself, you don't make great choices for yourself, right? But I think, I think we've come a long way in healthcare, especially now with COVID and everything. But I kind of got the message that it was like, you're not allowed to show emotion. Nurses can't cry. We can't get involved. Like, we've got to be the strong one. We've got to put on this, the happy face, and we've got to be there for our patients and our families. And just the nature of the ICU, because it's so fast paced, people, you'd take care of someone, they would unfortunately, die. And then you would have them shipped out, and a half hour later, you'd have a new patient in. So there was never time to really process your emotions. So I think even as a nurse, working in the ICU, I learned how to grin and bear it, stay at the task at hand, focus on what's important, and feelings and your processing and all of that, like, isn't important. So, and then I think that gremlin of, if you share that you're struggling, I'm going to lose my job. They're going to think I'm weak. If I call off, they're going to, all the nurses are going to be mad at me because now they're going to be short staffed, so that message of therapy is not a good thing. Therapy, actually, when you go to therapy, bad things are going to happen, was the completely irrational thought that kept me, quote unquote, safe, I guess. So I had that thought many times, but that was planted very young. And then my environment certainly didn't help. And we don't talk about therapy. Like, we should, but we're not, oh yeah, I'm really struggling with X, Y, and Z, and I decided to go to therapy. I think we talk about it more now. It's become less taboo. But I think we still, as a society, that toxic positivity and smile all the time and be happy all the time, and that's not real life, you know. So I
Mm.
think it's yeah, I did have that thought many times, but uh, I never acted on it probably until I felt support when I got with my husband. And I felt safe and loved and held, and then I was like, okay, I feel I had a safe landing. I knew with him I had a safe landing, that I could let down my guard and be with him, and then of course go to therapy and unpack things that I should have unpacked for many years ago. So yeah.
So beautiful. Now, when you shared that, you mentioned two things. One, you thought there was something inherently wrong with you, and then going to therapy might actually reveal that. So, what ended up happening, you kept walking around with that fear. Oh, people better not discover and find out something's wrong with me, otherwise, I'll lose my job. I won't be loved. I won't be accepted. Right? So, wow. And then you then finally having multiple times where you got that intuition. I should go to therapy. Should I go to therapy? And then postponing it decades out. Well, I'm glad you did eventually
Me
get there.
too.
The Warriors won. So I'm curious.
Yeah.
Do you is your mom still alive? And do you how what's the relationship now? Is it better? Is it the same? Is it non-existent? What's it now?
Whoa, you're going there, are you? So I'm just teasing. My mom is still alive. Yeah, my mom and dad are still alive. They are in Pennsylvania, which is true to the story. And that the way that the story plays out, that is 100% true. So I did send her a text message after I got those, texts saying I was heartless and soulless and, cut out of the family. And again, she's very traumatized and wounded, and she was acting like a 8-year-old throwing a fit, right? Writing those texts to me. And after I got into therapy and I learned how to set boundaries and set distance and really heal from that narcissistic and emotional abuse, I learned how to love me and stand up for me. And I sent her those messages that said, you need to go to therapy. You need to get help. I'm getting help. This isn't healthy. This kind of exchange isn't good for either one of us. And, don't contact me until you get help, mom, because we're just going to I can't keep doing this dance with you. I don't want to be in conflict with you. I don't want you to say hurtful things to me and me to get upset. No, no. And, that is the last that I've spoken to them, and that is you set a boundary, and my therapist said to me back in the time then, again, this was like I'm gonna be 40. This was when I was like 25, so over almost 15 years ago. She said, when I started therapy, she said, you draw a line in the sand, which is your boundary, and then she said, Lisa, you keep stepping over it. You keep saying, well, here's my boundary, but I still want you to love me, so it's okay that you did that. Here's my boundary, but I still want you to be in my son's life, so I still want him to have a grandma, so I guess I'll allow that. And she said, you have to just set the boundary, because if you keep, you know, if you keep crossing the line in the sand, it's like going back to ground zero. You're never going to get anywhere. And the more that you betray that boundary, the more you're betraying yourself, the more you're taking away from your worth and your self-esteem and yourself. So I set that boundary. And I mean, of course I love my parents. We never stop loving our parents. We never, we understand that they do. Nobody's perfect. No parent. I mean, I have a son. No parent is, my God, like, I'm sure he'll be talking about things I did that upset him, and we'll be able to talk about it and heal, together. Like, nobody's perfect. We all do the best we can with what we have. So of course I still love my family. Of course I still, love my mom and dad. I realize that they're very traumatized, and the very same thing, they won't get help. So things aren't going to change unless they go and get help. And if they're not going to get help, I can't engage in that kind of toxic talking or that toxic relationship. So, I'm open and I welcome that relationship if things can be coming from a healthy, supportive, wonderful place. But as of right now, that hasn't happened. So that's where that's at. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, great. I agree with you, and I also what you said, you're open to that, and I also believe that as long as people are alive, there's an opportunity to
Of
heal from
course.
the trauma, and so that's still, that you're still open to that possibility. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, one of the final questions. You
Yes.
mentioned that initially when you decided to do solo theater, that there was no music involved, and
Yeah.
then, um, what inspired that, and how fast, how easy, and why did you embrace and say, okay, let's do this?
Oh man. Well, I didn't do the music because again, Shame Gremlin was winning. Like, you're not a trained singer. Like, do you think you're actually good? Like, who do you think you are proclaiming yourself as a singer to the world, right? Um and that was my first thought was, well, maybe again, it's like we set these dreams and then we want to talk ourselves out of it. I was like, well, maybe the next round, like the next play I write, or maybe just like version one won't have music, but then, when I have the confidence, then version two, I can put the music in. But I thought, what if like every day is not a given? Like every day that we wake up is a blessing. And I thought, what if there isn't a version two? Like, what if you don't ever want to think that that's not going to be possible? But I thought all I can control is the here and now. And a fellow friend of mine named Tim, who I love dearly, who got me connected to Drew, who is my singer songwriter, coach and performance coach. He did a cabaret. Now Tim is a classically trained opera, just powerhouse of a singer. But I felt that music, and I love musicals. Like The Greatest Showman, I've watched like 5 million times, and like I just
Yeah.
sing that. I sing musicals, and I always sing in my life. Music really helped and healed me throughout all stages of my life. When I was a kid and couldn't process what was happening to me, I would turn to music. Music just, when I was a fitness instructor, I was so, I focused so much on that the music had to match the feeling of the class that we were doing. Like, music is just such a motivator and it's so inspiring that I thought, well, I'm selling myself short. Like I'm not doing the full thing if I become a scaredy cat and don't do this. So it was really important to me to just go all in and go, how good can we make this? How big can we make this? I'm never afraid of hard work. So I kind of just thought everybody started somewhere. Every person that you hear on the radio, like every famous anything or anyone that's doing anything, they started at ground zero. They weren't born experts. So I thought it's learnable. I'll work my butt off. And I already know I can carry a tune. So, but even if you can't, it's all learnable. Anybody can be a singer. Anybody can be a musician. Anybody can be a writer. Anybody can be anything when we get the right team in place and we put in the work. So I saw my friend's show that had music in it, and I just was so moved. And I thought about the musicals that I love, and I was so moved. And I thought, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go for it. I'm just going to go for it. And it just has, the feedback has been wonderful, right? And it's just been so great.
Thank you, Tim, for the inspiration. All
Yeah,
right, now, and thank you for sharing that. And
of
I
course.
believe I agree. Everything is learnable. I used to be tone deaf, really, and now I am no longer. Um, which is your favorite song? You have four original songs in there, right? Which is your favorite?
I do. So I have Smaller, I have The Warrior, I have Not Going Back, and I have I Choose Me. Um, I think, oh man, again, this is such a, lame answer, but I love them all for different reasons. But I really think that the last song, I Choose Me, probably Smaller, I Choose Me. I Choose Me. I think I really love that one because in the beginning, so Smaller, in that order is how we wrote them. And Smaller was the first song I wrote. And I needed a lot of help, obviously, from my singer songwriter, Drew, my coach and mentor, because I didn't know what I was doing. I would write something and he'd be like, no, 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 no. Like, not universal enough, or that doesn't make sense, or we did what's called the Bubba check, like Bubba, would Bubba understand? Like Bubba has, this the most, and I mean that in a loving way, but like if people are not sure what the song is about or questioning it, they won't get into it. So we had to make it the most universal, simplest, like lyrics and music and kind of thing. Well, it's not simple music, but lyrics. I Choose Me, which is the fourth song that I wrote. Drew only changed like 2 lines. Like I wrote like 98% of that. And even the melody and the music, we literally customized like every beat. That's what I really wanted. So that last song was really my purest, truest creation. And it was just cool, again, to show the proof that from the beginning, where you don't really know what you're doing, and then to evolve to be a songwriter and a musician and create something really great, that gets all the checks of approval. He's like, that's an incredible song that you wrote. So I feel like that one's like fully mine in a way. It's not, but it's like, I really created that from my heart. And because it's, again, universal. It's, I am free, I belong, I choose me. I'll stand up today, no regrets and no shame. There's just that I really feel like that's a song when someone is questioning the right choice they should make, when they're wanting to walk away from something or someone that isn't serving them. I really want that song to be, it's almost affirmation-y, to just really be a guide for their heart for people. So I really love the last one the best, I believe.
I Choose Me. All right, cool. I Choose Me. Now, we're about to wrap up. So, for people today, tomorrow, 1,000 years from now, what message would you like to share with them?
Ooh. So I'm really big on vision boards, but with that, I'm really big on action. So obviously you can manifest and vision and put all the pretty pictures and draw all the pretty words and do all the things, but if you don't take any action, it never comes true. And there's nothing worse than having all these dreams and plans and visions and dying with that regret. Because I think that's what nursing taught me, is that at the end of our life, we don't care about you can't take it with you. Someone once said there's not a U-Haul at the end of a hearse. Like you can't take all your things and your it's what you did. It's who you became. It's more about who you are. And that's what I've loved about this process, is who I've become as a mom, as a wife, as my own person, as a business owner, as all these roles that I have. It's know that there is nothing separating you and maybe the people that you look up to. So if you put, like, I think about my son who puts Kobe Bryant on his, vision board, or, I'm putting, A-list actors and Tony Award winning, musicians, or Pink. Like I have Pink on my vision board. Like there's nothing, I'm not putting Pink on a pedestal. We are equal. There's not this really successful person up here and then you're here. You are equals. You got to vision it. You got to do the work. You got to get the team involved with you. And the only way your dream is not going to come true is if you quit. Like you are the only one that can take yourself out of whatever it is that you want to happen in your life. You're not too old. You're not too much. You're not too big. You're not too any of those things. You can do absolutely anything when you set the plan, set it in motion, and get the team behind you. Pink started somewhere. Kobe Bryant started somewhere. They all started somewhere. There's nothing that separates them and you. We are all equal. We are all on the same playing field.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Now, before we fully close up, I'd like to ask you to do that song for us. I Choose Me.
You want me to sing?
Yeah.
Like the whole thing or just part of it?
The whole thing.
Oh my God. And you want me to do it like with the music, or you want me to do a cappella, or how do you want me to?
Whichever you prefer, music or a cappella. I'm good with both.
Oh, Okay, well, let's try to do it. Let's try to do. Okay, well, okay. See, I should have prepared for this. I think you said you were gonna make me sing, and then I was like hoping that you'd forget. I think. Okay, I will. Yeah, I'll do it with the tune and hopefully the sound. I don't know how it'll come across, but I will do it. I'll turn it down a little bit so it's not blasting anybody's ears. Okay, are you ready?
Ready, baby?
Okay. If you think I'm listening, no way. If you think I'm questioning, no way. You are not the boss of me, no. You don't know what's right for me, no. If you think I'm following, no way. If you think I lost my way, no way. You won't get the best of me, no. You ain't seen the last of me. I am free, and I chose me. I'll stand up today, no regrets and no shame, I'm complete. I am strong, and I belong. No, I'm not, my past won't let fear put its hands on my dreams. I chose me. If you think I'm giving in, no way. Coming back to you again, no way. This is going nowhere fast, yeah. It's so toxic when you talk like that, yeah. I'm not under your control anymore. I am free, and I chose me. I'll stand up today, no regrets and no shame, I'm complete. I am strong, and I belong. No, I'm not, my past won't let fear put its hands on my dreams. I chose me. I chose me. If you think I'm giving in, no way. If you think I lost my way, no way. I chose me.
Woo! I love it!
Yay.
This was Lisa Pezik on Story Legacy at Ramiro.me. Too big for my bridges? Or for your bridges?
Her. We changed
Her
it
bridges.
too big for her bridges.
Her bridges. All right. Look out for her solo theater play when it is out. With that, Lisa, we are going to end on a kapow. So how that goes is I'm gonna say you know how now, and then together we say kapow. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You know how now?
Kapow!
Kapow! Nice.